Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 322. Fresh off a great night of playoff basketball. I was at the Garden for Knicks Pistons, so I did miss the first quarter-ish of Clippers Nuggets, which is just going to be an absolute war. And I think every game is going to look like the first couple games did, where it comes down to the final seconds. I also will say this. It's always important in life to, stay even-keeled, not get too high, not get too low. Last 72 hours, for the first time since I've lived in New York, got in a car accident, my fault, wrecked my beautiful, just work of art car that I love so much, and I've lost every single bet I've made in these NBA playoffs. So you know what? Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to just kind of be flying a little too high, get brought back down to earth. I did everything I did this weekend are the exact things I've tried to counsel Damonza on not doing. Distracted driving, check. Chasing my losses, check. Betting games that I don't really have a feel for just because I'm trying to get even on the other one, check. All of it. And so, it was just a really real tour de force, but I'm not going to let that bring me down. Good to see you as always, Damonza. Happy late Easter.
You, Pops. Happy late Easter. Just don't stay there, bring yourself back out of that.
Exactly right. And this is a big moment. The next 9 hours, me deciding, you know what? Even though I am certain the Lakers are evening the series, and even though I have an opportunity to pull myself out of the hole with an oversized Lakers moneyline bet, I'm not going to do it. Because if I do that, man. Even if let's just take a quick breather. Let's just take a quick breather, enjoy the games, reset, you take a survey of the landscape. Because the other thing, you always counsel yourself not to do this, but it is so hard not to overreact to all these games. And so I watch Pistons Knicks, and we're going to get into it, but Pistons Knicks game 1, and I'm like, the Knicks are just so much better. These kids aren't ready. And then I'm there yesterday, and I'm like, man, the Pistons have been the better team 7 of the 8 quarters of this series. Like, maybe I had that exactly wrong. And so all of that, here's what missed the cut. Cooper Flag declares for the draft. We knew that was coming. Jalen Milroe says he's faster than Lamar Jackson. I don't know that he might be faster than Lamar is today. I don't think he's faster than Lamar, and Lamar came out of the draft. And because our producers are just so desperately, incredibly afraid of aliens and robots, they have put in there that evidently robots ran Beijing half marathon. Reminder to everyone watching in the chat, we greatly appreciate you. Like, rate, subscribe, review. We always hit a bit of a lull, it feels like, in subscriptions after we hit a big round number. Because it's like, well, we're so far away from the next thing. But it really, the next milestone wasn't 200,000. It was 250,000. It feels like you get to 100,000 and then 250,000. So we're 50,000 away, 49,000 away. We'd like that. We also are trying to up audio subscriptions. So if you're on iTunes, Spotify, check that out. Now, Damonza, let's get to what has been 2 classic games in Nuggets Clippers. Thus far, it has more than lived up to the hype. I think most people thought this would be the most competitive round 1 series. It has been. Go ahead.
Kawhi went off last night for 39. Seemed like he was hitting just about every shot. And that was enough to beat the Nuggets by 3 points. Jokic did his usual stuff on offense. He had a few turnovers. I think he had 7, and his free throws were not hidden. Do you think the Clippers took control of this series with the last game?
I don't think anyone's in control of this series, and I don't think anyone's going to be in control of this series. The Clippers avoided what would have been emotionally very tough to overcome, which is 2 opportunities to win on Denver's home court and going 0 for 2. That, to me, would have been more devastating than if these games had been in Los Angeles. Then obviously you can deal with it. If you're in Los Angeles, and well, I know that's
That'd
not
be
right.
Worse, right?
They needed to get a split,
right?
Given how well they played and the opportunity to steal those games. The story, of course, is Kawhi Leonard. Now, James Harden, after the game, comes out and is like, listen, Kawhi's always been disrespected or whatever it is. That's not true. I'm not going to allow for revisionist history. I actually think Kawhi Leonard, throughout his NBA career, has never once ever been underrated. I think he has either been properly rated or he had a brief period of time right when he signed with the Clippers when he was a touch overrated. He's never been underrated. And everyone has always understood that a healthy Kawhi Leonard is a playoff monster. The question has been, the last few years hasn't even really been a question, it's just been an answer. We're not getting healthy Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. This year, through 2 games, you're getting it. He was okay in game 1. Yesterday, though, was the first truly great Kawhi Leonard playoff moment we've had in a couple years. As you mentioned, he couldn't miss. 15 of 19 from the field. What was he? 10 of 11 in the first half. 39 points. 5 assists. Good defense. In a game, in a night that Harden didn't really have it. That Norman Powell, that the tiny violins were out because poor Norman Powell had his all-star reserve spot stolen by LeBron James showing up to the game. Norman Powell didn't have it, and Kawhi was exceptional. And I was skeptical on what we were going to get from Kawhi in this game because of how the schedule fell. A lot of these guys, or a lot of these series, I should say, you had 2 days between games 1 and 2. For Clippers Nuggets, they played Saturday night and then to Monday night. And when you had that Saturday night game go to overtime, you had, and we did a bonus pod yesterday. And we're going to do a bunch of those during these NBA playoffs. So we're not going to do too much on game 1 of that series today because we now have had game 2. If you want to hear my thoughts on game 1 on that series, you can check it out on YouTube or on the podcast feed. But game 1 going to overtime Saturday night and then a quick turnaround game 2 at altitude when Kawhi and Harden both played 40-plus minutes, I was really pessimistic is probably the right word, about how sharp Kawhi was going to look. And while Harden looked a little fatigued, Kawhi absolutely unequivocally did not. And he was the best player on the court, which does bring us to Nikola Jokic, who you're not going to kill the guy, but fair is fair. He is universally regarded as the best player in the world. That was a game his team could have won. And Jokic, for the first time, honestly, in a couple years, I thought had a downright bad playoff game. I guess you could argue Game 7 last year against the Timberwolves just by virtue of blowing that big of a lead at home. But Jokic, 7 turnovers in the fourth quarter, 3 turnovers. You mentioned the missed free throw late. He had, by the way, he missed 2 free throws late in game 1. They were able to overcome it after the biggest play of the game in game 1. He trusted an open Russell Westbrook to hit that 3 that was wide, that the Clippers were daring him to take. Last night, after, Christian Brown's awful shot, Jokic had Aaron Gordon wide open in the corner, the spot Gordon likes. Instead, and this is very uncharacteristic, he took the shot. It wasn't even close. He was kind of flopping about throughout the night. And that was the first game in again, depending on how you judge just the Game 7 team-wide meltdown. And I know he had a triple-double. And I'm curious, you can put in the chat Daniel, that I can see, or in this, our notes, if you think I'm being unfair, Daniel, our resident Nuggets fan, and you're allowed to have bad playoff games. Even the best player in the world can have bad playoff games. It was just jarring to see him that loose with the ball and to see a game that the Nuggets could have won, but he's got to wear that he was a big part of the loss. And so I think that if you are the Clippers through 2 games, the most optimistic thing for the Clippers through 2 games, other than stealing home court, is you're kind of happy with how you've dealt with Joker. And I know it's a testament to his greatness, but 29, 9, and 12, game 1 on 50%, which is about as low of a percentage as he's going to shoot in a game. 26, 12 and 10 with 7 turnovers, again on 50%. Game 1, horrendous defensively in the first quarter and then tightened it up. And game 2, really loose with the ball late. So I think most of us, if you picked the Nuggets like I did, the argument and the thought process was, with respect to Zubats, who did as good of a job as anyone in the league this year guarding Joker, you thought Joker would be so far and away the best player in the series that it would be enough to overcome the fact that the Clippers are a deeper team. Up to this point, that has not been the case. And it is not something I think will continue, but it also would be almost disrespectful to his place in the league to not acknowledge, hey man, need more from Joker in a game that's in the balance like last night. And here's the other piece that worries me for the Nuggets. So Michael Porter Jr., after being put on ice in game 1, they put him in game 2. He rebounded. He played his 33 minutes, hit some threes, 15 points, 15 rebounds. He had a few turnovers as well. I mean, the 20 turnovers for the Nuggets just killed him. And going 14 of 22 from the line didn't help either. But the other piece of that is, after the game, he talked about injuring, I think, his shoulder. They do not have the depth. This is one of the reasons Calvin Booth is no longer employed as the GM. They do not have the depth to have any of their 5 starters miss time. Because you're playing your 5 starters crazy heavy minutes, playing Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, more minutes than is, safe. Now, I know Damonza sometimes thinks I'm too hard on Russ, and Russ has not been a problem this series.
He wasn't
He's been
a problem
good for
at
them
all
this series.
last night. 100%. Yeah. He did what he needed to do.
No. And in game 1, he hit the huge 3. He had some amazing offensive rebounds. He also had another
late turnovers
insane...
and got blocked. Yeah.
I mean, it was the full... Game 1 was the full Russell Westbrook experience. Game 2... 20 minutes from Russ is about fine. But if Michael Porter Jr.'s out, you're talking 40 minutes from Russ.
Yeah.
Because Jalen Pickett cannot be in these games. Peyton Watson, they want to trust. They clearly don't. And hell, last night you put DeAndre Jordan on the court for 5 minutes. So they just are not deep enough if Michael Porter Jr. is truly banged up. So that is... Up to this point in the playoffs, I thought we had a super impactful, and it would have been an absolute shame of an injury on Easter, because I thought Jason Tatum broke his hand. The way he was reacting.
Yeah, Joe knew he didn't. But
Mazzulla's Joe Mazzulla's an
crazy.
insane person. I know that's not breaking news to anyone else. But I used to think Mazzulla's kind of demeanor was a bit. But if you guys haven't seen the clip, so Jason Tatum goes up for a layup. Did you think that was a dirty foul? I didn't think it was a dirty foul.
I didn't think it was dirty. And I also I honestly did not think that Tatum was about to have some long-lasting injury after he got up. But.
So here's the thing. The foul and the fall all looked normal, right? It just everything looked normal. However, and you're going to laugh at me. When I saw the way he was grabbing his wrist, like his hand and his wrist like this, and then I also saw the way he fell, I was like, well, that's exactly how I fell a year ago when I broke my arm. And exactly when I broke my, arm, wrist, whatever. And it's exactly how I, when I fell, how I tried to break my fall, just kind of awkwardly palms down. Yeah. And I was like, so I was like, oh, that certainly is a mechanism where, and it doesn't even hurt that bad. It's just like, oh, shit. Like, you know what I mean? I just broke my arm.
Right.
And the way he was holding it, I was like, oh, no. Like, this is a shooting hand. I thought he was going to be out. Who did not think he was going to be out was Joe Mazzulla, who the trainer is trying to go over to Tatum. And Mazzulla says, like, stops him. And then you see him yell, get up. Like, he's just a madman.
100%. But I think the guys received that well. And I think I don't want to say he was 100% correct for going about it like that. But at the end of the, like you saw, Tatum was not hurt. Like, it's a waste. And I think it's also your arm. You could get up. But,
yeah.
But yeah.
It was crazy. So, all right. So let's do a couple follow-ups because we're Clippers Nuggets. The moral of the story for me, just quickly, is Michael Porter Jr.'s injury. The reason I even got on the Tatum thing was if he has to miss time, it's our first significant injury of the postseason. And if there's any news on that anybody has, just like text it to me or put it in the doc. I haven't seen anything other than his post-game comments last night, which were somewhat alarming. All right, what are our follow-ups before we get to Knicks Pistons?
How many players in the league are you taking in the playoffs over a healthy Kawhi?
Joker for sure. Giannis for sure. Luka for sure. Shea, I think, has earned it by this regular season. Steph, LeBron,
man,
and I think that's the list. So here is the thing. And this is where I think we have to be like honest. Like, we can be respectful to what he did last night and, even awed by what he did last night without kind of overstating, his game-to-game impact. So, like, game one of this series, that was healthy Kawhi. He had 22 points on 15 shots, good efficiency, and 7 turnovers. So that is, like, that just is what it is. Now, last year, he was not healthy in the playoffs. 2 years ago, he was healthy those first 2 games. And in game 1, 2 years ago against Phoenix, he was a lot like he was last night. He had 38 points on 54% from the field in a win. And in game 2, he had 31 points on 55% in a loss. So here's, I guess, the point I'm making. Healthy Kawhi is an awesome playoff performer. And the way he raises his game in the playoffs is really the stuff of legends. But we don't need to act as if, that meme people put up sometimes, like they show you an athlete, like there's like 4 NBA players and they'll show you Steph Curry and it's like, but with Shaq's size, or those, it's like add one attribute to these great players. we don't need to act as if the only thing standing between Kawhi Leonard and being, the greatest player of all time is his health. Like, Kawhi is an awesome player, and health robbed him of a bunch of great playoff runs. But Kawhi, at his peak, was never the best player in the world. And so a healthy Kawhi, I am not going to put over Giannis, Luka, or Joker, all of whom either have been or will be the best player in the world. And I'm not, right now, I don't think Kawhi is going to be better the rest of these playoffs than Steph or LeBron. And so I understand LeBron had a really bad game one. And if we want to argue the LeBron thing, LeBron's 7 years older than Kawhi, that Kawhi is passing, so be it. So I think that's right where he lands in that hierarchy. I don't think that's disrespectful to him. I also think it's worth noting that this year on his team, James Harden was the best player. So, and now James Harden's the opposite as far as his playoff performance plummets. So I'm not at all trying to take away. Last night was the best game anyone's had in these playoffs so far. I think that's pretty clear, right? There's not one I'm missing.
Pretty fair.
With that said, there's only been 10 games. And so now when the playoffs are over, it'll still be one of the best games. But yeah, so that's where I have it shake up. All right, one last question here before we move on to Knicks Pistons.
So does this series have the potential to be like Sixers Knicks round one last year?
I think it does, meaning every game is, a bit of something of a classic. I think that one only went 6, right? Am I wrong about that? You guys can remind me. I think that was like 6 amazing games with amazing finishes. I think it does. That might not bode well at all for either of these teams.
Either team. Yeah, 100%.
Right.
No,
and so, especially with OKC getting the NBA version of a first-round bye, and so they're going to have a week plus off. Let me look at the NBA calendar real quick. So let's just assume OKC is going to sweep, okay, just for the sake of argument. Game 2 is tonight. Game 3 in the OKC series is Thursday. And Game 4 is Saturday. So they could be done on Saturday, April 26th. If this series does go 7, that Game 7 is Saturday, May 3rd, which would put Game 1 of Round 2 Monday, May 5th. So if the Thunder sweep, they will have 9 days off in the middle of the playoffs, just to rest, recuperate all of it. Now, I understand people will be like, rust versus rest. The Thunder are too good for that to matter, and these two teams are going to beat the hell out of each other. All right. Speaking of teams that want to beat the hell out of each other, let's do Knicks Pistons from last night.
Last night you got to watch Detroit in person in their playoff drought. First playoff win in I don't know how long. I heard it was
since 2008.
Yeah.
Since 2008.
Yeah, so that's good stuff.
Crazy. Yes, very happy for them.
So that series is tied up. Obviously, Cade Cunningham led them last night. New York needed a 21-0 comeback in Game 1 to come back and win that one, but last night they couldn't do it. Are you surprised that the Pistons are hanging with the Knicks like this, giving them such fits?
Shocked. Yeah, so it's weird. I said before, my pick before the series was Knicks in 6. And so you might be like, oh, so you thought it would be tightly contested. And my answer was, no, not really. The way I thought it would go would be the Knicks win the first 2 in New York. Not easily, but comfortably. They then kind of relax a bit and lose Game 3 in Detroit, which typically happens. They then win Game 4 to retake control of the series and then relax a bit, lose a Game 5, and then wrap it up in 6. So sometimes a 6-game series there isn't a lot of, if it goes up 2-0, up 3-1, win in 6, there's not a lot of pressure points. And so I thought that the Pistons threw their best shot in game 1. The Knicks overwhelmed them with that 21-0 run where they looked frazzled, where they looked young, where they looked unable to find their offense. I was like, oh, okay. So that happened without anyone on the Knicks having this outlier game. So now they're just going to get rolled in game 2. And I mentioned losing all these bets. My bets on the Knicks were at the game at halftime because I was like, oh, the Pistons, they're up 6. The Knicks had at that point, I got into the free throw line one time. I was like, they're going to get the calls in the second half. Cade will cool down. The Jalen will get rolling, and the Pistons won't have enough offense. And I was kind of right that all those things happened except for Cade cooling down. The Knicks got, after shooting 2 free throws in the first half, shot 17 in the second half. The Pistons only made 6 3-pointers the entire game. Jalen, flopped around, but also, got to the bucket and scored. He scored 37. The problem for the Knicks was, other than Jalen Brunson and Miles McBride, who the hell was ready to play? I mean, Josh Hart did Josh Hart things, but he's not a reliable shooter. Karl Anthony Towns
gotta wake up.
No-showed.
Yeah.
Just no-showed. I mean, it was after such a good game 1 from Cat, he let the Pistons big men punk him throughout the night. The self-proclaimed greatest shooting big man of all time, it only took 2 threes. OG couldn't slow down Cade on one end and couldn't get his offense going on the other end. And Mikal Bridges, who was okay, but man, missed so many what could have been not dagger, but game-changing threes. And now the Knicks, all of a sudden, with a somewhat banged-up Jalen Brunson, find themselves in a real fight. And the problem with that is this Pistons team is so young and so athletic that they are just going to keep coming. And I shouldn't say they're so young because they do play Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris big minutes and Schroeder. But really, I'm talking about Cade, Jalen Duren, and Asar, who, I mean, he and his brother, if either one of them ever learn to shoot, look out, everybody. They're just defensive madmen, that are just insane athletes.
Quick,
just like
fast,
insane athletes. And they're just going to keep coming at you. And the Knicks, meanwhile, I mean, we know what Tibbs is going to do from a minutes perspective. Everybody's going to be playing 40+. And now they're in a real fight. And I can't imagine how on fire that Pistons crowd is going to be. So, that is the thing about not having won a playoff game since 2008. An underrated all-time run, by the way, Damonza, was the 2003 to 2008 Detroit Pistons. The Chauncey, Rip Hamilton, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince. 2003, 50 wins, conference finalists. 2004, 54 wins, upset the Shaq Kobe Lakers to win the championship. 2005, 54 wins, lose in 7 to the San Antonio Spurs in the finals. 2006, 64 wins, lose in the conference finals to Shaq D. Wade. 2007, 53 wins, lose to 22-year-old LeBron in the conference finals. The 48 special game, you know what I mean, is what flips that series. 2008, 59 wins, conference finals, lose to the Big Three Celtics. So that team from 03 to 08, 6 seasons, 50-plus wins every single year. Was that 7 seasons? Well, from 02 to 08, which is the 7 seasons, they had 50 wins every single year. But 03 to 08, they made the conference finals every single year. They made an NBA finals and won it. Made an NBA finals and lost to one of the best Spurs teams ever in 7. And the teams that beat them after they won the championship and then lost the finals in 7, they lost to I think I said Shaq Kobe Heat, the Shaq D Wade Heat, LeBron, and the Big Three Celtics. But I say all that to say this. That was the last time they won a playoff game. The last playoff game that they won was played against Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett in 2008. George W. Bush was the president. Since then, they have made the playoffs 3 times. Swept. And since they were last swept by Giannis in 2019, they have won the following number of games: 20, 20, 23, 17, 14, and then this year 44. It's an unbelievable single season turnaround, and those kids now think they can win. And here's the other important thing they think. They think they have the best player in the series. And that is, Cade to me this year had a better season than Jalen Brunson. I'm not ready to say he's a better player than Jalen Brunson, but on my fake All-NBA teams, I think I had Cade second team and Jalen third team. I'm pretty sure that's how I had it. And now the Pistons feel like we can beat them up. Karl Anthony Towns is going to back down. And they are not afraid. And so I was shocked watching that last night and some breaking news, Sham says Dame is playing tonight. That's not, once he was upgraded to questionable, that's about what we expected. We'll talk about that in a bit with Pacers Bucks. But I thought last night that when the Knicks were slowly chipping away Damonza, that if they could just get over the hump, the Garden was so electric and the Knicks at that point were getting every call that I said, okay, I think they're going to win. And then to his credit, man, Dennis Schroeder.
Bang.
Yeah. But after the Schroeder 3, the Knicks had plenty of opportunities, man. The Schroeder 3 was obviously the biggest shot of the game. But after the Schroeder 3, and we ended up with, I got very lucky. I was able to buy kind of last minute some really good seats. So we were right behind the Knicks bench. Shout out John Turturro of Rounders and Severance and a bunch of other fame who we got to talk with for a moment. After that 3 by Schroeder, the Knicks' possessions were Jalen Brunson, pull-up 3, decent look, miss. Mikal Bridges, pull-up 3, wide open, miss. They then foul Schroeder. He only goes 1 of 2. So now there's 8 seconds left. You have your timeouts. You're down 4. Make a shot, and you're going to have a shot to tie it. And Jalen Brunson, open 3, kind of, miss, and game over. And so just a brutal close to the game there for the Knicks.
How many years? Go ahead. How many years before you think Cade Cunningham can make club superstar?
I guess I think this year's too early, but he's in contention, and I would expect him maybe to be in next year. And so I would expect next year. It'd be disappointed if he's not in next year. And listen, if they pull off this upset when the Knicks have, after Cade, do the Knicks have of the 5 best players in this series are 4 on the Knicks? Jalen, Cat, Bridges, OG, and Cade. Those are the 5 best guys in the series, right? It'd be pretty remarkable if he pulls this off. What's Matthew in the chat asking?
He says, does Mitch Robinson need more minutes?
I mean, if Karl-Anthony Towns is going to play like that, maybe. Or maybe you want to go super big and play them both, kind of kill your spacing, but I guess it won't kill your spacing because Cat's a shooter anyway, but you probably can't play Mitch and Josh Hart a ton of minutes together and have 2 just non-shooters out there. All right, let's talk Lakers Timberwolves.
So the Lakers are in a spot, unfortunately. They lost their first game at home, so they're back tonight. Who do you think has the most pressure to figure it out in game 2 between LeBron, JJ, or Austin Reeves?
Along with Luka.
Luka, obviously. Sorry.
You're fine. It's all right. You can clear your throat. This got to be a LeBron game. Here's the deal. I think LeBron, can survey the landscape and say, Warriors-Rockets should be, and we'll talk more about that shortly, should be a war. And the Lakers should be in good position to reach the conference finals if they can figure out the Timberwolves. And so I'm sure LeBron, who's very, very strategic and understands how many bullets he has left in the gun better than any athlete in sports history, which is why he's been able to perform at this level for as long as he has. I'm sure LeBron was hoping to not have to shoot one of those bullets in the second game of the playoffs. But if they lose tonight, they just might be done. I feel like if the Rockets lose game 2, they are done. That is a true must-win for the Rockets. They are too young and too inexperienced to lose both of the games at home to a championship caliber team or a champion-laden team in Golden State and come back from it. I won't officially write off the Lakers if they lose this game tonight, but they will be on life support. And so that means LeBron has to be more aggressive from the beginning. This is, to me, Damonza, I'm going to talk about all 4 of those guys. For LeBron, it's simple. From the opening tip, he needs to be more aggressive offensively. Julius Randle seemed to want to take on the challenge of going at LeBron on one end and guarding him on the other. Awesome. That is a real opportunity for LeBron, and to also put Julius on the defensive, so to speak, from the opening tip, which I think could leak into Julius's offensive game, which while he hit open threes in game 1 and give him credit for it, he also had 7 turnovers. He also seemed a little too eager to go at LeBron, and I don't think that's a winning matchup for the Timberwolves. So LeBron's just got to be more aggressive from the opening tip, and as opposed to letting the game come to him. Austin cannot let the Timberwolves get away with guarding him with Mike Conley. The Timberwolves are at an offensive edge if they are able to keep Mike Conley on the floor big minutes, because with Ant being a willing passer, if you also have Mike Conley out there and you have 2 willing passers at the guard position with that many good shooters that they have, the Timberwolves will be even harder to defend. The way to play Mike Conley off the court is to make him defend. They are going to try to hide him if they can, I'm sure they'll try to hide him on, Dorian Finney-Smith, I guess. But he's probably going to end up matched up on Austin. Austin has to make him pay. Luka, very simple. The Lakers are at their best when Luka is collapsing the defense and spraying it out to open shooters. Luka played well in game one. The idea that he should be, how accountable he is for only having the one assist when a lot of guys, listen, there weren't open shooters and guys when they were open weren't making shots. I'm not killing Luka for that at all. However, Luka in that game created 40 points. That's not going to be enough because he scored 37 and had one assist. Luka doesn't have to score 37. They do need him to have 8, 9, 10 assists. And then JJ. And this is really interesting because JJ, and I don't know how much of it is gamesmanship. I don't know how much of it is not wanting to tip his hand. But JJ saying basically in these press conferences, I liked what we were doing schematically. We just didn't execute. I didn't like what they were doing schematically. I'm not scapegoating JJ. The players did not come out with enough force or energy or intensity. And JJ's been excellent all year long. But the Timberwolves are at their most dangerous when Anthony Edwards is creating shots for other people. They're 7-0 this year when he has 8 or more assists. Last year in the regular season, they were 9-3 when he had 8 or more assists. And the 3 losses, they averaged 116 points, so the offense wasn't the problem. The year before that, they were 6-0 in the regular season when he had 8 or more assists. That tells you 2 things. One is, it's a rare occurrence that Anthony Edwards is close to double-digit assists. The other one is, that's when their offense is humming. And so, no, I don't think Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels are going to score at the level that they did in game one. But I also think that it wasn't just dumb luck that led to them scoring at that level. It was the fact that the Lakers were terrified of Anthony Edwards getting to the rim on them, and because of that, they collapsed a defense that already was packed in the paint, and of those 42 Timberwolves shots, 37 of them were classified as either wide open or open. They weren't making tough contested threes. They were making practice shots. So LeBron's got to be more aggressive. Luka has to try to spoon feed Dorian and Rui and Austin some open looks. Austin has to be more willing to try to hunt a Mike Conley mismatch. And JJ has to really figure out, is Anthony Edwards at his most dangerous when he's flirting with a 20 and 10 or when he's flirting with a 35.2 assist game? Because I would rather sign up for the 35.2 assist game if I'm the Lakers. So that's my thoughts on the series. Damonza, how much trouble do you think the Lakers are in before we move on?
Yeah, I was going to say they're in a rough spot. But I said at the beginning of the series, I could see it going 4-2 either way. Obviously, you got to pick up the game tonight. I think you lose this game, you're in a rough shot. You're in a rough spot. The Timberwolves are just younger, and yeah,
Timberwolves are younger, and they're not going to be afraid. I mean,
Yeah.
they rolled the Suns in round one last year. They stared Joker in the face in his building and beat them, so they're not going to be afraid. I also think this, though. They are a team that those guys are not going to be quite as active defensively if they are not also seeing their own shots go in and feeling good about their offense.
Yeah.
It's another reason to not let the defensive approach have everyone else other than Anthony Edwards beat you. I just think it's the wrong approach.
Yeah.
All right, let's do Rockets Warriors.
So after dropping game one at home, the Rockets are now down in that series. You had the Rockets winning this series. So how do you see them turning it around? Or can they turn it around?
I think they can. It was a really interesting game one because when Steph hits that moonball insane three to go up 23 points, you would expect the game to, go up 23 points late in the third quarter, the game to just be over. And the Rockets never lost faith and never lost contact. And despite the fact that they couldn't, down 23 in a game where neither team breaks 100 is like being down 35 in a regular NBA game. And despite that, they got it to a one-possession game late. They had it to a 4-point game when they should have, with the ball at one point in the fourth quarter. They just couldn't get over the hump. So how do they turn things around? Amen Thompson needs to be better defensively. Listen, young player, first playoff game. He's chasing around Steph Curry. Get it, no problem. Game 2's got to be different. Jalen Green has to show up. If Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, I believe, will show up. I just think he had a rough shooting night. Fred VanVleet's a champion. Fred VanVleet's played big in big spots. Jalen Green has got to get you at least 20. They're just not going to score enough points otherwise. The reason for optimism for the Warriors is you played Steph and Jimmy huge minutes. The optimism for the Rockets, I should say. They answered with 56 points between them, but the rest of the team only scored 39. Draymond was unbelievable defensively, but he had another triple single. Pods gave you a little. Moody made one shot. They're throwing Guy Santos and Quentin Post, who really shouldn't be on the court in high-leverage playoff spots at this point in their career. The Rockets have more high-quality rotation players. They just have nobody, it seems like, other than VanVleet and Şengün, that are confident offensively. And so, Dillon Brooks needs to make... The Rockets, ultimately, what needs to happen is the Rockets got to make some shots. And they cannot fall down 0-2 at home. Now, I thought that they were going to win game 1. I obviously was wrong. I don't think the Warriors have enough high-quality players, and I don't think you can rely on Steph and Jimmy to combine for around 60 in every game in order for the Warriors to run away with this series. But my pick was Rockets in 7, and I will admit I watched that game thinking, okay, let's say we get to a game 7. Who the hell on the Rockets is not going to be absolutely petrified every time they have the ball in that game 7? And now Şengün was more aggressive offensively than he was in most games. He only averaged 18 points a game in the regular season. Draymond was daring him to take those 10, 12, 14-footers. He took them. He made them. Şengün's got to be even more aggressive offensively. Like, flatly. Şengün's just got to say, it's not really my game, but I'm going to try to go out here and score 30. I'm going to make you double me and see if that can generate some open looks. And so I thought there was a real cost, Damonza, for the Warriors almost blowing that 23-point lead. Yeah. Because if you heard that Steve Kerr huddle, he said to Steph and Jimmy, he was like, you guys are going to play 40-plus minutes. Do you need a break? Are you tired? And they were like, no, and he ran with them through the end of the game. I don't think that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah, how sustainable is that? Yeah. When do you think they would get hit? I mean, even if they ended up beating Houston the next round,
I would think the next round, particularly if they're playing the Lakers, but maybe even against the Thunder. Like, here's the thing about Steph. So Jimmy maybe is more used to this, but Jimmy also, playoff Jimmy is unbelievable, and he is showing up. I was skeptical about if it was going to show up this year, but thus far, in the play-in, the Clippers game, all those games, he has shown up. Steph is not a super high minutes guy, even in the playoffs. So Steph, last year against the Lakers, or 2 years ago, last time they made the playoffs, had one game in that series when he was at 40 minutes. And they lost. It's not like they were cruising. They lost the series. Steph against the Kings that year, they used him super heavy minutes in down 2-1 in the series. And then in game 5, 42 and 42 minutes. And then they just couldn't use him insane minutes in game 6. And in game 7, where he had one of his greatest playoff games ever, a 50-piece in game 7, he still only played 37 minutes, even though he had 50 points. The previous year they made the playoffs, when they won the championship in 2022, that entire playoff run, Steph had one game where he played more than 40 minutes, and it was 40 minutes, 41 seconds. So, like, he is not a guy, and that's when he obviously was far younger, that historically, because, and this isn't a knock on him, the guy's out there running mini marathons, without the ball, that is going to be playing these super heavy minutes. Now, with Jimmy, they can survive the non-Steph minutes in a way they couldn't before, but I think the Rockets are going to wear him down if this can be a long series. But in order for this to be a long series, Rockets have to win game 2. All right, let's get to some of these other series. But before we do that, let me tell you guys about our friends at DraftKings. The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props. That does not stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30, 40, or even more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Lock in your bets. Make this playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special. For first-timers, new DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WRIGHT, W-R-I-G-H-T. That's code WRIGHT for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, Damonza, let's do Pacers Bucks quickly before we get out of here.
Oh, might be some trouble over there in Milwaukee. Halliburton struggled to score, and they still won the game pretty easily, even with Giannis putting on a show. Dame missed game 1, but it sounds like he might be back for game 2. Mm-hmm. Do you think Milwaukee can turn this around, or is it possibly too late?
Don't. I picked them. I'm really worried about them. They just don't have enough good players, man. One takeaway from these playoffs the first weekend was, man, the 3 teams that had the best records in the regular season, the Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavs, more so the Thunder and Celtics than the Cavs, to be totally honest, but include the Cavs, are the only teams that you feel like, oh, they can have 5 quality players on the court and a quality player sitting on the bench. Every other team, you watch them, and it's like, and Milwaukee more than anybody, Milwaukee, you watch them, and you're like, there's one guy out there that I think's a quality player. I mean, Taurean Prince has been cooked for a couple years, but Darvin Ham loves him, loved him with the Lakers, loves him there. Kuzma, 20 minutes, 0 stats. Brook Lopez, God love him. What are we doing? I mean, not what are we doing, he's just old. Yeah, and Ryan Rollins, it was a starter. So you look at them and it's like, okay, yes, Dame will help. And Gary Trent Jr. is good. And Bobby Portis is good. But they don't have enough good players. The Pacers, to their credit, have a bunch of good players. They have no great players. Their one player who can be great, Halliburton, had an off night. It didn't matter. And so I think the Bucks are in real trouble. I also think it would be foolish to expect Dame, after a month off, to come back and immediately look like Dame. And Dame is not going to help you defend the Pacers, who scored 67 in the first half. The game was over at halftime. Giannis is 36 and 12. You're down 67-43 at half. So I picked the Bucks because I wanted the Bucks to win because I like Giannis. I think they're, now again, overreaction, to all these game ones. I think the Bucks are in real trouble.
I'm actually shocked that you have like no faith at all, even like not a title run, but at least to take care of this series.
They're playing a lot of bad players, bro. I mean, it's just a lot of players you don't trust. Yeah. And then quickly listen, because some of these pods might be closer to an hour instead of 90 minutes, because I might be back on the air tomorrow morning to do a quick Lakers Timberwolves reaction pod. This part of the NBA playoffs, I feel like we almost should be on every day. I'm not going to get to, and we've got some NFL draft stuff later in the week. So the other series we can just do quickly. I'm just going to tell you guys right now. I do this for a living. I love the NBA. I love the playoffs. I do not feel a personal nor a professional obligation to really watch 3 of these series. Celtics Magic, I don't feel like I am doing anyone a disservice by just passively having on in the background. Cavs Heat, I might not watch a second of it. I'm just telling you right now. Like, it's going to... And Thunder Grizzlies, you almost watch just to see how bad of a massacre it can be. But, like, tomorrow night, we have the old 7 o'clock Magic Celtics, 7:30 Heat Cavs, and then 9:30 Warriors Rockets. Tomorrow night, you know what that sounds like to me, Damonza? That sounds like a date night. An early dinner date night, and then back in the house to watch Warriors Rockets. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, this is a out of respect to the Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavs. It's not because those teams aren't interesting. It's not because those teams aren't awesome. It's because...
See you in round 2.
Yes, see you in round 2, man. Yeah. I mean, the Grizzlies got beat by 50. Shea doesn't score 20 for the first time since Halloween. It doesn't matter. The Celtics have Tatum, Brown, and Kristaps, I think, combined for like 15 of 44. It doesn't matter because the Magic can't score. Paolo scores 36. The rest of the team scored 50. And Heat Cavs, I can't tell you what happened. I can't tell you the score. I don't even... Was that game Sunday? When was that?
Sunday. It was Sunday.
That must have been in the middle of the Easter egg hunt. Because I vividly remember Magic Celtics. Oh, I know what happened with Heat Cavs. One of my mom's dear friends who was over for Easter is married to a Canadian. And there was the hockey playoffs on. And he was like, do you care if we turn on the hockey playoffs? I'm like, it's Heat Cavs, buddy. You go right ahead.
Got it.
So I was like, you're very lucky. Because this could have been a very awkward, like usually when someone's like, hey, do you mind if I turn something on? The answer is always no, of course, go ahead. But if Warriors Rockets was the early game, the answer would have been yes, I mind, and no, you can't. But it was Heat Cavs. So I watched a little, it was 2 Canadian teams playing each other. It was Toronto against Ontario, maybe? I don't know. But whatever. I watched a little playoff hockey. Shout out to me. Right. And so Heat Cavs, I don't know what happened. I'm looking, so I don't have analysis for you on it. I don't feel like I'm not doing my job because of it. I'm just, those series are over. All right, remember, like, rate, subscribe, review, do all that cool stuff. And it was Toronto, Ottawa. There we go. All right, let's do some listener questions.
Dylan asks, can Kawhi make a top 50 all time after these playoffs?
He's already in the top 50 all time.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
2 finals MVPs, a couple seasons where he was top 5 MVP finisher. Top 50 all time, like, that is, he's already cemented there. If they were to win the championship, then top 25 all time is, I think, fair. I think like he becomes like a rich man's Bill Walton, where, these super high peaks that with a career that was kind of derailed a bit due to injury. But if he wins a championship here, and listen, the Clippers are not going to win the championship, but if he were to, then then you have to say that he, like right now, I don't have him ahead of, and I know this will irk people, on my all-time whole career list, I don't have him ahead of James Harden. I understand Kawhi's a champion and Harden isn't, but Harden has, 10 unbelievable seasons, and Kawhi just, has 4. But if he were to win the championship, even alongside Harden gets a ring too. He then jumps him if Kawhi is the man on the run. All right, we have another Kawhi question.
How is Kawhi eligible for Club Superstar, given that he's been kicked out before?
Yes. Anthony Davis got kicked out and got back in. Anthony Davis also might get kicked out again. Then again, do you become more of a superstar because you were traded for Luka Doncic? I don't know. Go to Christian's question.
Christian, do you not live tweet during games because you don't want to be tied to your heat of the moment takes?
No, it's a number of reasons. One is I'm not really on Twitter during games. I don't enjoy that experience. I enjoy watching the games, so there's that. I have a hard time, if I am tweeting during games, so much of it is just going to be ripping Reggie Miller's commentary, and that's not good for anybody, so I just leave that alone. And I don't feel an obligation. So here's the deal. Little media, pull back the curtain a bit. And I'm sure a lot of you have picked up on this. Some people in my profession live tweet during games to try to prove to you they're watching. That's all they're doing. They're not adding any, thing super interesting or nuance or whatever. It's just like, wow, what a play. Just to be like, hey, guys, I'm watching. You see this a lot with guys, in the, late night NBA games. It's like, oh, I stayed up to do this. And by the way, I'm not acting like I never did that. So when the TV show first started, especially when TV show was on in the morning, I would sometimes intentionally just send a totally banal tweet, with 2 minutes left in a 1 a.m. Lakers game, just be like, man, I'm watching this, then I'm going to be up. I don't feel an obligation to do that anymore because I feel like I have established myself as someone who watches the games. So I don't feel like I have to prove it to everyone. And I'm not saying everyone does that, but some people are definitely doing that. And here's the other thing. Because I did, I made it clear I don't read my mentions, but I do occasionally, when I open Twitter, click that tab and just, see it for a second. And there was a lot of folks. Oh, after I tweeted out the link to yesterday's emergency pot, a lot of people this guy was hiding all weekend because the Lakers lost and the Warriors won and blah, 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 all this stuff. I'm now going to say something really obnoxious. I understand why for folks, fan-adjacent people who might have a team-oriented spaces that they do on Twitter or a very, very lightly listen to them and their friends' podcast, but have a legitimate social media following, view media through the prism of, if you're not giving your take on Twitter, you didn't give your take. I happen to have enough real platforms that I can say nothing on Twitter and the whole world gets to hear what I had to say anyway. So I don't
Pretty
feel an
obnoxious.
obligation to be like, oh, man, Lakers in trouble in 140 characters. What a shot by Steph. Because I'll do that on the YouTube show, the podcast, the TV show, or something else. So there's very little running that can be done when you're on national television every single day. You just might have to wait for the actual show to get my takes on things. And with that, we'll wrap today's show. See you guys on with Colin in about 90 minutes. Again, I'm not going to tweet about that appearance. It's still going to happen. And then I'll see you on the TV show in a few hours. Great job, Damonza. Talk to everybody soon. See you guys. Thanks to Blue Duck. Thanks to Volume. Thanks to DraftKings. What's right?